the point. The point is that we have lots of Adam and Eve temptation. There's lots of things around us, lots of fast food and Facebook, lots of things are aiming for our attention and time and money and food consumption, everything right now. And because of that, the amount of temptation around us is just incredible. There's an analysis that about 70 years ago, about 10% of the human deaths were caused by bad decision making. Right? How could you die in the past? You could make some mistakes, industrial accidents and so on. Now it's about 50%. Smoking, obesity, car accidents. We're just creating lots of ways for us to fail, lots of temptation, lots of ways for us to fail. Now, with all this temptation, all of these problems, it would really be nice if we could all come up with our own Ulysses contract, if we could all come with our red buttons, with our solutions to overcome this problem. Turns out it's very hard to come up with all these things ourselves. The good news is there is technology around. There's hardware, there's software, there's all kinds of ways to think. If people have, as a fundamental problem, the problem of self-control, what can we do to help? What kind of hardware we can build to help? What kind of software we could build to help? And I think that actually is a big key to success and to moving forward. I do want to leave you with one story that kind of explains how complex this is. There was a program in Denver called the Denver Drug Program. And the idea was that if you were a heroin addict, you could come to this organization and they would ask you to write a self-incriminating letter about your drug habit. And they would ask you to address it to the person you fear most will find out about your drug addiction. So I would write to my mother and I would say, "Dear Mom, I'm really sorry to tell you, I have a heroin habit. Love, Dan." And this organization will take the letter, they would fold it, they would put an envelope, they would address it to my mother, they would put a stamp on it, and they would hold it in trust. And they would come from time to time and check my blood level. If I ever had residue of heroin, they would mail the letter away. Right? This is the idea that we can do something that is so big and so frightening, and the moment that we want to overcome our temptation, that we could implement something that later would control our behavior. By the way, what do you think happened when people started craving drugs? They came to this organization and said, "I want out." And what did this organization say? "You can be out in 3 weeks, but for the next 3 weeks, we know you're in craving, we'll check your blood level every day." And 3 weeks were enough time for most people to get clean. Now, eventually they had to cancel this organization because of human rights violation. Because if you think about the Ulysses problem, is that if the only way these mechanisms work is that we force people in, or we let them go in without letting them get out, right? Because if you can get out, it doesn't work anymore. It creates a big challenge on what do we think about human freedom. So the two thoughts I want to leave with you is, how do we design the world to help us overcome our temptation, and how do we do it without obstructing too much with our human freedom and rights?